Hello and a very warm welcome back to Widowed AF. We are back in Blighty after a very nice jaunt to the Greek island of Skiathos. So welcome back. You're here with Rosie, as hopefully you can tell, and Jon is with me too today.
Hello.
So we are a week behind. We missed a week of recording. We rather optimistically thought, it'll be fine. We'll be able to record out there. We packed our, what do you call it, mobile? Portable studio.
Yeah. And just most of it didn't work, as well as rubbish internet.
Yeah, no, we didn't practice it before we left and the internet didn't work. So we attempted to record something and basically it was crap. So we're not going to subject you to it. And we weren't able to put out an episode on Monday. But you know what? These things happen. It's the summer holidays. We knew some things would slide and I'm sure that you guys will forgive us. So we are going to talk a little bit about Sarah Swainson's episode today and probably a little bit about blended family holidays, because for a lot of you it's probably something that may be on the horizon or something you thought, God, how on earth does that work? But I'm not sure we'll be able to give you any productive tips or hints, but
No, not really.
take batteries. The battery tip. We call them batteries. Yeah. That's my number one tip. Right, but anyway, let's get started. So Sarah, the lovely Sarah, we have received quite an unusual amount of support through for Sarah, actually. I get, the odd messages through here and there for people, but I think there was something quite magical about what Sarah did. And I don't think it's just me that feels that. Sarah spoke about becoming a widow, obviously, but her story, it was different in that her husband died from drug-related causes, which brings with it an enormous amount of shame and stigma. And she believes, and rightly so, that by talking about it and giving a humanizing addiction, I guess, and stopping this sort of stereotype junkie image, because her husband was a loving father and, she describes him as a family man. And I don't know. It really made me rethink, but sort of look again at addiction, because I suffer with addiction myself, so I am aware of why I did it. But then to project that out and understand that most people don't choose this path, it is normally to outrun something. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I said after I listened through on the edit was you view people with an addiction just with a bit more empathy after listening to it, and just, there's a root cause somewhere, but. How the hell did you get to it?
I know, and she did it very discreetly, but she alluded to the fact that he'd had a traumatic past, and as she said, it was his story to tell, and he couldn't, so she didn't want to do that, but and that's absolutely her prerogative. But I think often people are just trying to outrun something, and depending on what the kind of drug or addiction of choice, because it isn't always a substance, is it? It can be shopping, it can be running. Sadly, that was never mine. I don't know. It really touched me, because I just felt, but for the grace of God, and I say this as a non-believer, but how many of us could have fallen into this trap given the wrong opportunity?
Look at the man with cigarettes.
Sarah talked as well about what it's like to love somebody in addiction, which I've never experienced, but it sounds brutal, particularly with something as visceral as an opioid addiction. And she talks about the lies and the deceit and the fact that she felt almost foolish afterwards because she hadn't realised that he'd lapsed. But of course, your brain does some very clever things to protect you, and I'm assuming that it sort of that's what happened here. And essentially, when she finally literally caught him in the act, saw him through a window, he still tried to deny it. I mean, this is the level of deceit that people in active addiction will go to.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's so powerful.
And one of the things I've really highlighted in the notes is she says to him, either you're lying or I'm mad, but one of us needs help.
Yeah.
And I think...
that was brilliant.
Yeah, because she backed him into a corner and he had to admit it. And then ultimately, I mean, the reason that she's on the podcast is because ultimately the rehab and the getting clean failed. And at a party at their house, he took heroin, and it killed him. And just like that, she's got to, explain to the children and to people, because when somebody dies, the first question, particularly when they die young, is always
how.
Yeah, because we're interested, and partly we're interested because it's part of the story. How you die is important, but it also is like a primal fear, I think, because it's like when people got COVID. The first question, did they have an underlying health condition? Because essentially we're all very frightened of our own mortality, and we sort of want to know if it's something that we can avoid.
Yeah.
But then you are then forced to disclose the sort of more unsavoury aspect of their death, which is that it was drug-related. Now, Nikki Outlaw, her husband, they thought there was cocaine in his system, and she fought and had him vindicated. Yeah. But she sort of saw the tip of the iceberg of that, of the judgment that could be waiting for her. And Lulu, having to make the decision of whether to tell people how her John died. Yeah. And in the end, she has, and she's been very honest about it. And Sarah made the same choice. She said, actually, the more we talk about this, the more we shine a light onto it, and the more we get rid of the shame and get people help.
And the other thing that we all need to realise, and if any of you out there listening are sitting in this right now and hiding those secrets, like it's not your shame. Mm-hmm. It's something that happened, and it was in your relationship, but there's no shame attached. And as soon as you don't hide it anymore, then there's a genuine understanding, and the headlines subside, but your mind will feel better. So if you can get the guts to pop your head up, and if Sarah's episode has helped you start to discuss some secrets that you've kept behind, then this podcast is worth every minute that we record.
No, soppy. And actually, on that note, she did mention a charity called Drug Fam, who were really, really supportive. So if you are supporting somebody who is in active addiction, I think those would be a really good resource for you to find, and we'll try and put it on the notes if we remember. But the one thing I took from it, and yes, it's easy to say this if you're not having your belongings stolen, being lied to by an addict, but just the kind of grab onto this idea that nobody chooses this path. They might choose to do it once, thinking that once won't hurt. And actually, Sarah did talk about this almost like demon voice. You can do it once this time. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
Now, I know that voice, because that voice will tell me all the time, why don't you just have one drink? You can have one. Like, be a normal person, just have one drink. But I don't know that I can. And for me, that risk is too great to take.
No, mine was same voice, cigarettes. And
yeah, because you had like a cheeky one at a festival, and you were just like fucked the next week, because it was like all those addiction demons started.
Yeah, another week of grumpiness, and it was horrible. So full stop.
Yeah, and I'm the same with booze. I mean, to be honest, if I'm completely honest, I don't like it enough to have a glass if I'm not drinking it to get pissed. I mean, that's the essential base of it. Yeah,
my cigarettes is nostalgia.
Yeah, of course it is.
If I had it, it would be. I'd stink. It'd be horrible. It'd be just, why would I do this?
You wouldn't be allowed to share the bed, would you?
No. I'd have to move to the pond or something.
The pond. But one, I've realised I've talked quite a lot about Sarah's episode, but I really, really did feel moved by it. I felt that the idea of ostracising people in addiction is something that we need to readdress, and I would love infinite resources for this for the rehabilitation program to be better.
Well, then we got into politics, don't we?
Oh yeah. We
take the tax from the booze and bring rehabilitation.
Yeah. We'll stay clear of that.
We'll stay in our lane.
We'll stay in our lane. But I do have good news, and that is that Sarah says in there that she made an active decision to be happy. Paul died, but she didn't. And she wanted hope, and she wanted a future for her. I think, as with so many of our guests, the main kind of end take I got from this was that of a woman that had fought so hard for her husband, and I kind of pictured her, like really like Scrappy-Doo, like she was gonna she did everything to try and get him help, and essentially, he couldn't be helped in the end and his life ended. But as she says herself, her life didn't. And she made an active choice to be happy. And I think I can tell you, I will check before I put this out, when I last texted her, she was actually wedding dress shopping. She's getting married. So big congratulations, Sarah, from all of us.
Sarah.
All of us, the two of us.
And you as
And
well.
you lot,
You
yes.
as well. We don't forget about you.
So yeah, I mean, it's this job comes with this wonderful benefit that I got some really, really great friends out of it, and I will hopefully be seeing some of them on Saturday because guests who have recorded prior to the 5th of August were invited to a party called Woodstock. We hope to do it again next year, and so we will be posting some footage from it, and I'll try and rope people into doing a little record for you if I can.
Yeah.
There's a bar,
I promise I
so-
won't poison people with the barbecue.
Famous last words, famous last words. So we promised a little bit of a debrief of our trip to Skiathos, which is a very beautiful Greek island. And we went out there to for the wedding of some really good friends of ours, Laura and Stephen, who got married, obviously. And it was a beautiful, beautiful wedding and a beautiful place. We had been there before. But, you know, it is hot and children do moan a lot. Mm. And I think sometimes parents lose their shit on holiday. I can remember being driven to the airport on a family holiday in Florida. Honestly, my mum made us pack and drive to the airport. We didn't go home, but your temper's afraid, and it's a bit like Christmas, isn't it? Because you've put so much time, effort, planning, money into this that you want perfection. And of course, perfection doesn't exist, and it especially doesn't exist when you've got children.
No, it doesn't. And the food's different.
Yeah.
Everything, they can't drink from the taps.
And they drink a lot of fizzy pop, which probably doesn't help.
Yeah. And cocoa shells.
Cocoa shells and more ice cream than anybody should ever eat. But we had a great time. And I do think you look back on these things, much like a lot of parenting, actually, where when you're in it, it can feel a little bit challenging. But when you look back, you see the kind of streaks of silver in there, the magic. Yeah. And those are the bits that you remember. And I mean, the most sort of obvious example is childbirth, because people do it again. But yeah, we had a nice time. But I guess I hadn't realised how impacted I would be by going to the wedding, because the vows were very powerful and they really love each other, and it just, I was a bit off, and you kind of couldn't work out why. And then in the end, I took myself off the toilet and just had a big ugly cry, and it did ruin my makeup, which was a shame, but it obviously had to come out. And I don't even know what was bothering me. It was something about the power of those wedding vows and the till death does do part. And I suppose I didn't expect to be seeing out that aspect of my vows at such a young age.
I had a tear behind my sunglasses.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Because we sat there together, married and very much in love. But I also, I meant those words when I said them to Ben. And I remember walking down the aisle to him and just thinking, this is the man I'm going to be with for the rest of my life. And I think it's okay to wallow in that a little bit, especially at something like a wedding.
Yeah, but you're not wallowing, you're remembering.
Yeah.
And you remember, you're at a wedding and you're remembering a happy day.
And it was quite close to my wedding anniversary, actually, which probably didn't help Laura.
It was still a happy day. I thought back to our wedding day, which was really different. You can find the interviews online for that one.
Yeah, we looked.
And also, when I married Sarah, she was an hour late. The vicar was the bridesmaids. They got a puncture, so they came late. And the vicar's like, "Oh, we're going to go without the bridesmaids," and Sarah was just like, "Absolutely fucking not."
Well, at least it was a genuine issue and not like my hair's gone wrong.
No, but it ended up being an hour late. It was a dad. He'd sent it the wrong bloody way because he knew the right way. As all Yorkshiremen do. We know the right way to go, and what you need to do is send it through a small village.
Ben's family were late, actually. Yeah, they were late. And I was sitting with my dad waiting to go. I mean, we got married at a registry office. And I'd really kept it together. I was completely cool. I'd had my makeup applied. And then my dad just looked at me and went, I'm so proud of you. And that was it. And I just cried through the whole ceremony. We didn't really have time to get emotional at ours, did we? We had like an hour's notice. we COVID wedding.
Sarah cried. Dad walked her up. We had it in the church where her nan got married because we randomly found the church from this photo.
Oh, did you? I didn't know
that. Funny story, and I'm going to bore you a lot with it. Why not?
If I've got to listen to it.
So her dad had relatives in 2 cemeteries across my hometown in Woolwell, and they had an open day where they opened all the books up for who's buried there and who's thing. And him and Margaret went down and had a look, and found that they had family there, and it was also where his mum got married. So once we found that, I said, "Can we get married there?" Because obviously we live down south, but we got married up north, which was logistically fun.
Easier than Greece.
Much easier and much cooler as well. Actually, that is March, but it was still hot. But, so I went to get married then, and I remember she came and she held my hand, and her entire body was vibrating. Yeah. She was crying, but her makeup didn't move.
The makeup artist had applied the lacquer. That's where I went wrong. You see, I didn't use waterproof mascara, and I wore red lipstick, which is always a bit of a gamble. Right. But we had great fun, and also it's going to a wedding. We're talking about addiction, going to weddings sober.
Yes,
because it actually was quite a sober wedding, wasn't it? To be honest, there weren't that many people. I think it was too hot for much drinking, and people were dancing, and it was quite a fairly small wedding. It was family, but it was just we walked away feeling like we'd witnessed something really lovely and special, and felt quite
privileged to be part of it.
Exactly what I was going to say. Exactly. Took the words out of my mouth. So we're now back for a couple of weeks. So we are going to be doing some recording, and we're going to be using much more video, and just trying to do what we can really around the kids, because as so many of you will be aware, it is difficult to do any sort of job around children, and particularly one where sound is an issue. So we got home at 2:00 this morning, so I think the teenager is emerged for food, and that was about it.
And I only got halfway through doing the studio build, and then we all got sidetracked with summer holidays. So,
yes.
It's you don't hear it echoey, but before edit, it's quite echoey in here.
So we're working on that. Now, there was something else that I wanted to talk about, if you're okay with it, Jon. And I know this is quite a long episode, but we're doing two for the price of one you're getting now. So with your permission, Jon, it feels relevant on here because Jon's first wife, Sarah, episode 3, I believe.
5.
Phoenix.
Oh,
because of wash-ups. Yeah. Phoenix AF describes how Sarah died from a type of bowel cancer, which is caused by a hereditary gene. Mm-hmm. Now, we then discovered that Jon's side of the family may have another gene that causes bowel cancer. So Jon's been waiting for some genetic testing to be done. Now, we've not been overly anxious because I think we both just put it to one side because the implication of this could be quite severe for Holly.
Yes,
yeah.
It could be.
So I'll let you tell the results because...
Yeah, so I'll bore you a little bit and explain what the gene is in the simplest way. So it's called Lynch's syndrome, and it affects the digestive tract of the body and can cause bowel cancer in adults, generally above 20. It said there's a lot of different gene and mutation. Sarah had the MLH1, which is the big one, and mine was a different one, and I've completely forgotten.
That's okay.
But when I went to my dad's funeral last year, because he died quite suddenly of pancreatic cancer, he basically rang me up and told me he was terminal. He had the year left. He was gone in 4 weeks.
Yeah, Ben's dad was very similar, actually. Pancreatic's brutal.
And then we went up to the funeral, and then my auntie pulled me to one side. She goes, "Oh, I need to tell you that we've identified Lynch's syndrome in the maternal side of our family tree," which took my breath away, if I'm honest.
Of course it did.
So I was like, "Oh shit, it's in both of us."
Yeah.
Like, what's the implications for Holly? So I took myself off the GPs. They gave me this massive form, which all the family history. Now, I'm not going to go into detail, but I'm not really that close with my family up north. We're just not close. It just is what it is. And he was asking for all who had what when they did this and this. And I'm like, I don't know how to do this. So I just sort of binned the paperwork. I went, oh, fuck it, I can't be bothered. I'll come back to it another day or whatever. And then it was like a year later, or 9 months later, I got an email from Guy's Hospital saying, "Oh, can we arrange one of the consultants to give you a call? One of the genetic counsellors to give you a call."
But even that was quite scary, because getting that email to me felt like this is quite a serious thing that they're checking, rather than just a precautionary check.
But for me it was different because I've seen it before. Because Sarah was tested when she was like 21. So I think we spent an hour on the phone. I think I was actually in the car on a Zoom call, waiting to go for my haircut. Not that I was not taking this seriously. It's just I wanted to have this call. But my concerns have always been there's this risk of this MLH1 going into Holly, because it's a 50-50 chance, and it's gone up Sarah's family tree as long as we know. And then if it was on my side as well, what happens if we both have the same gene, and what happens to Holly? So she was explaining what can happen if we both had MLH1, which she'd have been tested instantly.
Yeah.
If it was different, they would have tested her anyway, just to make sure she didn't have both, or one or the other. But if I'm negative and don't have the gene mutation, then it's just back to normal, and she has to wait till she's 18 and make the choice. Which for a long time I rallied against, but I understand it quite clearly now. So
yeah, we were looking into all sorts of options, weren't we, to see if we could get her tested younger. But tell the people.
So luckily, I don't have it, and the blood sample for that particular gene came back normal. So we are we. That's it, yeah. We, I think me and Rose, not you guys. You don't live with us. I'd need a bigger house.
They probably feel like they do sometimes.
It's a bit of a relief, and we're back to the original plan, which means over the next 10 years or so, I slowly introduce it into Holly's mind in a way that won't jar her too much.
Yeah. And we put it into that box of things that we absolutely cannot worry about until we know anything. But the sense of relief when it came out negative, it's that the old kind of metaphor we use about the bags that you're carrying, and I think we both put down a bag because
definitely.
It is so many of you guys will know, waiting for medical results is terrifying. And whilst we were able to put it out of our minds because it was a fairly low risk, but having spoken to the guests I've had on, I know that any medical test can come back with something that you're not expecting. So we are delighted that Jon doesn't have the gene. So that's a massive relief for us.
And if anyone's affected by my story and wishes to discuss with me any more in more details, because I obviously won't do it on here, but there's quite a lot of information that can go down a rabbit hole in it. And if you are interested, let me know.
Yeah, do, because we do. I've said it, but we do try and respond to our Instagram messages personally when as soon as we can. Sometimes because we both have access to it, things get missed, but. And we do genuinely love hearing from you. We've had some really nice emails this week, and we can never get enough of hearing from you, basically, because what we wanted to do was create this sort of two-way communication, and that's what it feels like at the moment. It feels like this sort of tribe.
Yeah.
So with that, I think I'm going to draw this one to a close. But we will be back with you on Monday. It's going to be an interview with Michael Coulson-Tabb, who speaks very beautifully about losing his wife, Alice, to breast cancer. And we'll update you with how the party went.
Yeah.
Do a little sunshine dance for us, if you wouldn't mind.
The weather looks okay. I mean, not Greece, but it looks okay.
It looks okay. We've got gazebos. We'll be fine. So the rest of you, I hope that you are coping in the summer holidays. I know that they are challenging, and if you just want to reach out, feel free. But we're sending you lots and lots of solidarity and with love, and we'll be back with you soon. Take care, guys.
Goodbye.